God morgen.
Godmorgen. Hvordan kan jeg hjælpe dig?
Jeg har brug for en sutteflaske, tak.
A woman walks into a pharmacy in Odense, Denmark. This could be the beginning of a bad joke, but it's actually the start of our new podcast series, What's Going Wrong and How to Put It Right. Our woman, let's call her Anna, hesitates between going to the pharmacy on Vestergade or to the other one on Kongensgade. She goes to the first one as she needs to buy diapers on the way. She goes in and buys a baby bottle. The year is 2009. Michael Jackson dies. Microsoft releases Windows 7 on all computers and laptops. Barack Obama is sworn in as President of the United States. 2 years later, Obama is still president, Michael Jackson is still dead, and Windows 7 is still a thing. The same woman goes into the same pharmacy to buy another baby bottle.
Godmorgen. Jeg har brug for en sutteflaske.
The difference between them? One had a chemical that can lead to various problems, including decreased fertility, obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular issues, and the other didn't. By 2010, Denmark had finally banned BPA, or bisphenol A, in all items that come into contact with food, like baby bottles, among many other things. In the rest of Europe, however, BPA was only banned in 2018. In many countries, it is still allowed, in baby bottles, toys, and as a sealant for tin food cans. This is the second episode of What's Going Wrong and How to Put It Right. This is the story of the long, hard road to ban BPA. Sound editing and musical creation by Guy Caligari. I'm Joana Lassan. What is going wrong and how to put it right? Imagine an industry that promotes a specific chemical. Evidence starts piling up against the use of this chemical. Scientists, one after the other, discover that it leads to serious negative effects on human health. One country bans it, and then another. What does this industry do? It complains to the authorities that banning the chemical infringes upon the free movement of goods. The authority is the European Commission, and the free movement of goods is the holy cow of the EU's single market, and it's used as a get-out-of-jail-free card for the toxic industry whenever it is contradicted. The chemical in question is called 2,2-bis-4-hydrocyphenylpropane, sorry, I couldn't say it naturally, or bisphenol A, known by the more friendly acronym of BPA. BPA is a substance which scientific studies have shown that, in increased concentrations in the blood, can potentially lead to decreased fertility, obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular issues, among other problems. And this is no small thing. In the EU, more than half of the adults are overweight. 1 in 10 live with diabetes, and this figure has doubled in the last decade. And almost 49 million people have a cardiovascular disease. Obviously, these diseases are not all caused by BPA. They are the result of a complicated interaction of factors. But being able to reduce them, even if you're a psychopath and you're not thinking about it from a human perspective, but rather from the neoliberal view of saving money, it would make sense. These diseases cost the EU economies billions of euros every year. Why then did it take so long to ban BPA? BPA was created in 1891, and it started being commercially explored in the period between the two world wars. Its use became more and more widespread until in the 90s it started making headlines. The combination of it being a suspicious endocrine disruptor and being present in baby food and baby bottles made it stand out, in a bad way. In Denmark, it was discussed in the national parliament from the mid-90s, and there was pressure to adopt a ban. However, the government preferred to play it cautiously and not to act at the national level until a European ban was in place, and so the years went by. With them, concern over BPA's effect increased as well as the public pressure to ban it. In 2005, the matter was brought to the Danish Minister for the Environment at the time, who reiterated that there was an ongoing investigation in the EU, the outcome of which had to be decided, before Denmark implemented any unilateral restrictions. In 2010, at least 15 years after the first discussion took place in the Danish parliament, all parties except Venstre and De Conservative decided to introduce a Danish ban. Denmark became the first European member state to take a step and prohibit the use of BPA in baby bottles. In response, the European Commission contested that the proposed measure infringed upon, of course, the free movement of goods. How could they argue that a chemical that is suspected of causing so much harm should have the freedom to move around? Well, this argument infringing upon the free movement of goods is always the first argument used by the Commission to restrict environmental policies and regulations that might harm the profits of big business. However, in this case, something very unusual happened. In the negotiations with the Commission, Denmark convinced them to implement a stronger restriction on the use of BPA in baby bottles in Europe. France then followed Denmark's approach in 2012 and took it even further, with a broader ban on BPA in food materials that come into contact with children. 3 years later, France extended its ban to all materials in contact with food. However, the industry was not ready to give in so easily. Let's have a short break from this topic.
Ah, the good old days of supermarket shopping, when nothing stood between you and your next meal. Nothing. But today, there are materials that help lock out harmful contaminants and reduce spoilage, keeping us safe and the food we eat fresh. Plastics make it possible. So now, the rest is history.
Plastics are everywhere, from food packaging to healthcare, construction materials, furniture and textiles. We are drowning in it. According to the European Environmental Agency, in Western Europe, we consume annually on average 150 kilograms of plastic per person, which is more than twice the global average. The vast majority of plastic used ends up in landfill or the natural environment where it will take centuries to break down. In our Seas and Oceans, a World Economic Forum report has said that plastics will outnumber fish by weight by 2050. And plastic manufacturers' reliance on climate-destroying fossil fuels as their basic ingredient with added toxic chemicals leads to incalculable impacts in our bodies and the environment. It is hard to exaggerate the scale and urgency of the challenge facing the world to substantially reduce our plastics use and to ensure we reuse and recycle as much and as quickly as possible. For decades, the plastic industry has preferred to focus on litter and its cleanup, rather than addressing some of the more fundamental issues such as product design, manufacturing processes, and developing reusable and non-plastic alternatives. A report we did at CEO exposed how the packaging industry and its customers in the food and drink sector support various anti-litter campaigns across Europe to both greenwash single-use plastic packaging with a veneer of environmental respectability and also to try to shift responsibility from tackling plastic waste onto local authorities and citizens. And plastics is a powerful industry. According to data from the EU Transparency Register compiled in lobbyfacts.eu, the industry association Plastics Europe employs 30 lobbyists, has spent between 4 and 4.5 million euros on lobbying in 2022, and has had 32 meetings with high-level Commission officials. Those are not easy to book. Let's go back to our story. Now we get to how the measure was really stalled. In 2013, Plastics Europe complained to the European Commission about the French BPA ban, arguing, you've guessed it, that it infringed upon the free movement of goods. The Commission, on the other hand, had an internal disagreement about it. The Internal Market Department regarded the ban as fully disproportionate and wanted to punish France, whereas the Directorate General for Health and Food Safety supported the measure. To make matters worse, the French Constitutional Court that took the issue further gave a paradoxical ruling. While it upheld the ban on BPA materials in contact with food in France, it supported the use of BPA in materials in contact with food for export markets to, and I quote, protect the competitiveness of French businesses. In other words, BPA was dangerous for consumers in France, but it was okay to be exported to the rest of the world. Meanwhile, Plastics Europe did not give up. Corporate Europe Observatory filed Freedom of Information requests about this matter. A Freedom of Information request is a procedure which assumes that people have the right to know about the activities of public authorities, and in theory it allows us, the people, to access the documents of the European Parliament, the Council and the European Commission. And I say in theory because, more often than not, the answers take a long time to come, and they are often so redacted that we cannot read it. In this case, our Freedom of Information requests uncovered evidence that Plastics Europe wasn't satisfied by only causing a delay to the ban. It continued its efforts to challenge the French ban and the Commission. So in 2017, Plastics Europe once again urged the Commission to take legal action, arguing that a ban could not pursue any coherent public health objective. Despite the pressure from the plastics industry, the Commission finally completed its investigations in 2018, more than 20 years after Danish politicians began arguing for a ban. And since then, the scientific evidence about the negative health effects of BPA has only been increasing. In early 2022, Plastics Europe, and we have to admire their tenacity, once again challenged the EU's ban on BPA. But the appeal was dismissed by the European Court of Justice. After the European Chemicals Agency determined that BPA is a substance of very high concern for wildlife, the Commission announced its intentions to place broad restrictions on the use of the chemical. In retrospect, although the corporate lobby's goals were not achieved, the Commission's industry-prompt challenging of the national level restrictions on this toxic chemical clearly caused unnecessary and, frankly, possibly dangerous delays. Denmark was recently discussing a ban on PFAS, forever chemicals, and the same arguments were mentioned. Will the Danes go on with the ban, or again, once more, wait for a European decision? This remains to be seen, but if this story tells us anything, is that member states should not wait for European bans on substances they know to be dangerous. This is the end of our second episode. Please share it, rate it, and send us a message with your feedback. Text editing by Sarah Reeder, fact-checking and research by Olivia Hudeman, Kenneth Haar, and Moritz Nojewski. Sound design and editing by Guy Caligari, and graphic design by José Torres. I'm Joana Louçã, and this was Corporate Europe Observatory's What's Going Wrong and How to Put It Right.